Hey, good morning and happy holidays to everybody. We're getting ready to do the Christmas Junie Bee. Now, Christmas is a big time for everybody, little people, big people. And I know a little person, well, she's not a little person anymore, but she's a big person. In fact, she's a senior in college, and she listens to Junie Bee along with her friends. And her name is JC Cross. And this is what she wanted for Christmas, was to have a shout out in the Junie Bee. So if it makes her happy, we'll do it. So Miss JC, you have a lovely holiday and be nice to your parents and your brother. Now, this Junie Bee is called Junie B. Jones, Jingle Bells, Batman Smells, P.S. So does May. She's not in kindergarten anymore. She is in first grade. Because, you know, for the holidays, we're jumping back and forth, so work with us. So this is Junie Bee at school during the holidays. Now, if you remember when you were little, Christmas was a pretty big deal in grade school because you had to do things like color and use red construction paper and maybe make presents, and such a good time. Well, we're going to see if Junie Bee does that too. So we're going to see how far I get before I cough or I sneeze or I scratch my nose. So here we go. It says, Dear First Grade Journal, yay, yay, hooray. Today is the last week before winter break. Winter break is the school word for, I got to get out of this place, I tell you, because Blabbermouth May is driving me crazy. She is tattletaling on me every day almost, and that's how come yesterday I chased her down in the playground and I threw grass on her head. It was very fun, except I hope Santa did not see me do that. That guy watched me like a hawk, I tell you. From Junie B., first grader. Hey, wait, I almost forgot. Today, all the first graders are going to sing happy holiday songs together, and that will be a hoot, I tell you. Just then, I quick stopped writing because I couldn't believe my eyeballs. That Snoopy head May was stretching her neck across the aisle, and she was reading my journal page. I slammed my book shut speedy fast. This is none of your beeswax, sister. But May was already jumping out of her chair. Mr. Scary, Junie Jones wrote a bad name about me in her journal. She wrote that I am a bladdermouth, and bladder is not a nice word. I rolled my eyes at that dumb comment. It's not bladdermouth, it's blabbermouth May. Blabbermouth is spelled with B's, not D's. Mr. Scary stood up at his desk. Girls, please. Then he was going to growl at us, probably, but the phone rang from the office and he had to answer it. I crossed my arms at May. B is the same letter that you always forget when you say my name, remember? And so maybe I should use B in a sentence for you. I leaned close to her eardrum. Dear Blabbermouth May, my name is Junie B. Jones. How come you can't remember the B's, huh, May, huh? Are you a blockhead or something? May's face got very puffery, and then all of a sudden she grabbed my journal right off my desk and she started to rip out the page. I tried to grab it back from her, but May would not let go of that thing, and so me and her got into a tuggle. I pulled real hard, and then May pulled harder, and then I pulled and pulled with all my might, and me and my journal went flying back to my seat. I hugged my book all safe and sound, but something did not feel right. I looked down. During the tuggle, May's sweater sleeve accidentally got hooked on my thumb. And so, oh no, her sleeve got stretched across the aisle from me. I quick untangled it from my thumb, but the sleeve did not bounce back. Instead, it just stayed on my lap, real longish and droopish. I did a gulp at that thing. Then very slow, I looked over at May, and kaboom, her whole stack blew off. She exploded out of her seat, and she hollered at the top of her lungs, Mr. Scary, Junie Jones wrecked my sweater sleeve. Junie Jones wrecked my sweater sleeve. Mr. Scary hung up the phone. I quick wadded up May's sleeve and tried to give it back to her, but she would not even take it. and so the sweater sleeve unrolled itself on the floor. May's eyeballs popped out of her head. Ah, it's all the way to the floor. It's ruined. It's ruined. My sweater is ruined. I tapped my fingers, very thinking. Well, the whole sweater isn't ruined, actually. It's just that one sleeve, May. If you grow one arm to the ground, it will fit like a glove, probably. May opened her mouth to holler again, but Mr. Scary was already hurrying down our row. He did not say a word to us. Instead, he took May and me by our hands, and he rushed us into the hall. May's sweater sleeve dragged on the ground behind her. She picked it up real limp. Look at this. Just look at it, Mr. Scary. Junie Jones wrecked my sweater. Junie Jones wrecks everything. I did a mad breath. I do not wreck everything. And anyway, this wasn't even my fault. You're the one who started it, May. You're the one who stole my journal. Mr. Scary looked down at me. Stole, he says. The word is stole, Junie B., not stoled. I sucked in my cheeks because now was not the right time for grammar. Fine, she stole my journal. She just grabbed it right off my desk and she tried to rip a page out. May kept on arguing. But I only took her journal because she wrote a bad name about me. And I stamped my foot. But May wouldn't even know about that name if she didn't snoop. Snooping in someone else's journal is an invasion of their privacy. Mr. Scary did a little frown. Privacy, he said. It's an invasion of privacy, Junie B., not piracy. I threw my head back. For the love of Pete, can't you just let it go? I'm trying to make a point here. Mr. Scary glared his eyes, and he said for me to calm myself down, young lady. I jumped all the way in the air. I am calm. After that, I got marched speedy quick to the water fountain, and I had to drink some sips of water and settle myself. I drank, and I settled. Then I wiped off my mouth, and I rocked back and forth with my feet kind of nervous. Sorry I got mad, Mr. Scary. Sometimes grammar makes my head explode. Mr. Scary smiled a little bit, and then he took me back to May, and he talked to us in a calm voice. I really don't understand your behavior lately, girls. The holidays are the time of year when we try to spread goodwill and peace. But you two are treating each other worse and worse every day. Me and May quick pointed at each other. It's her fault, we shouted together. Mr. Scary shook his head. I don't care whose fault it is. If you two have another fight today, there will be no holiday sing-along for either one of you. Instead, you'll be parking yourselves in the principal's office for the afternoon. My body did a shiver at those words. Because I've parked at principals before, that's why. And there's not a lot of singing goes on down there. So what's it going to be, girls? Do you want to shake hands and make up, or do you want to spend the afternoon at the office? My eyes glanced over at May. She was standing still as a statue, and her eyes were staring at the floor. I waited and waited for her to shake hands with me, but she did not look up. Finally, Mr. Scary tapped his annoyed foot. Well? I waited some more, but May still did not budge herself. That's how come I did a big loud breath, and I picked up May's long sweater sleeve, and I gave it a shake. There, fine, I shaked with her. Shook, said Mr. Scary. Whatever. Then I dropped the sleeve back on the floor, and I kicked it over to May with my foot. She did a gasp. Then she quick picked it up and swatted the dirt off my pants. Hey, quit it, I yelled, and Mr. Scary snapped his loud fingers at us. May stopped swatting. I was just getting the dust out. Mr. Scary filled his cheeks up with air, and then he let it out real slow. And then he took us by our hands, and we walked back to room 1. Peace and goodwill do not come easy. The rest of the morning we did arithmetic. Arithmetic is the school word for adding and taking away. Only I couldn't even concentrate on my numbers that good, on account of May kept giving me mean looks and flopping her sweater sleeve around. Pretty soon there was a knock on the door. Come in, please, said room 1. Mr. Scary taught us to say that, only I don't actually know why, because people come in anyway. The door opened very slow, and it was Mr. Toot, the music teacher. He was carrying a big brown box in his hands. It was dusty, I think, because when Mr. Toot popped the box on the floor, Sheldon started to sneeze his head off. Sheldon is very allergic to dust particles. Also, he is allergic to hoagies and dairy products and nature. Achoo! Achoo! Mr. Scary looked real panicked, and then he quick picked up the tissue box, and he rushed it back to Sheldon's desk. But Sheldon was already wiping his nose on his shirt sleeve. Ha! Beat you again, Mr. Scary said. I beat you at that race every time I sneeze. Mr. Scary closed his eyes. I have told you before, Sheldon, we are not racing. Sheldon laughed, and then he threw his fist in the air and he shouted, Sheldon Potts rules! Mr. Scary rolled his eyes, and then he moved the dusty box farther away from Sheldon's desk, and Mr. Toot lifted the lid. I stood up to look, and wow, guess what else was in there? Elf clothes, that's what. There were little green elf hats with jingle bells on their ends, plus also there were cute elf vests with belts. Mr. Toot held them up for us to see. Boys and girls, our PTO made these costumes several years ago. Aren't they great? Every single first grader is going to get to wear one today. And he started passing them out. My Richie friend Lucille got hers first. She looked at it and made a face. Okay. Number one, I don't wear this shade of green. And number two, I don't wear bell hats. Mr. Scary looked up at the ceiling, and then he took Lucille by her hand, and he walked her into the hall. And she came back wearing her bell hat. Pretty soon, all the rest of room 1 were wearing our bell hats, too, and we shook our heads, and the bells jangled, very jingly. Hey, this room sounds just like a jingle bell sleigh, I said. Mr. Toot did a chuckle. You're right, Junie B. Every year, one lucky class gets to wear the jingle bell hats. And this year, because room 1 has been so well behaved in my music class, I chose you. All of the children clapped and cheered, except not for Lucille. Instead, she threw her hands in the air and shouted, What are the odds? After that, she flopped her head on her desk, and she didn't come up again. Mr. Toot ignored her. And that is not all of my good news either. The class with the bell hats goes on stage, and they lead the whole auditorium in singing Jingle Bells. Room 1 jumped from our seats. Jingle bells, yay, we're going to lead the Jingle Bells. Mr. Toot smiled. Okay, everyone, just to make sure that you know the words, we are going to have a short rehearsal. Rehearsal, we shouted, yay, rehearsal. Only too bad for rehearsal, because rehearsal was nothing to shout about. We sang that dumb song a jillion times, I bet. At first it was kind of fun, only then it got real boring. And so that's how come I started singing different funny words, and they were funny words about Batman and Robin. And I sang them loud so my friends could hear. Jingle bells, Batman smells, Robin laid an egg. Batmobile lost its wheel and Joker got away. Herbert and Lenny laughed and May did a gasp. Then she sprang up like a spring and she started to tattle. Mr. Toot, Junie B. Jones is singing the... And I quick yanked on her skirt. May, are you crazy? You and I can't fight anymore, remember? If you tattletale on me, we'll be parking ourselves at Principal's. May covered her mouth with her hands, and she sat down real fast. Oops, never mind, she said to Mr. Toot, and I wiped my worried forehead. Whew, that was a close one. I saved our gooses. May leaned across the aisle. You did not save our gooses, Junie Jones. I saved our gooses. I'm the one who didn't tattle. She pointed her finger at me. But you better not sing those bad words at the sing-along. I mean it, Junie Jones. If you sing those bad words on stage, I will tell on you no matter what. Robin laid an egg is not bad words, May. An egg is nothing for a bird to be ashamed of. I don't care. It doesn't matter. You already ruined enough today, Junie Jones. You ruined my sweater, and you ruined my mood, and now you're going to ruin the sing-along, too. I crossed my arms at her, and she crossed her arms at me. Even if I get in trouble myself, I will still tell on you, she said. You can count on that, Junie Jones. And after that, she leaned back in her chair and she brushed her hands together real smugly. I looked and looked at that girl. May is off her rocker, I believe. We went to the sing-along after lunch, and the auditorium looked like Santa's workshop. There were a jillion cute elves in that place, and wait till you hear this. Room 1 got to sit on the very first row. I sat in the seat right next to my friend Herbert. This sing-along is going to be fun, right, Herb? Right? The sing-along is going to be the time of our life. Just then, May plopped down in the seat on the other side of me. I stopped smiling. That seat is saved, May. I'm saving it for someone else. She looked around. For who, she asked. For someone not you, that's who. May did not budge herself. You can't make me move, Junie Jones. This seat is public property. She scooted closer to me. I'm going to stick to you like glue. It's the only way to make you behave yourself today. I showed her my teeth and grrr. May did not look fearful. Finally, I moved closer to Herb and I pretended she was invisible. Pretty soon, the sing-along got started. Mr. Toot said to turn to page 1 in our songbook. The first song was 12 Days of Christmas. It is about a guy who gives his girlfriend a bunch of stupid presents. I tapped on Herb, real curious. What would you do with 10 Lords of Leaping, do you think? He thought for a minute. I'd take them back and get store credit. I nodded. That Herb has all the answers. After that, we sang Frosty the Snowman and Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and Winter Wonderland. Finally, Mr. Toot stood up at his piano and he said it's time for Jingle Bells. Room 1 hurried to the stage. It was very thrilling, except for May kept on sticking me like glue. She stepped on my heels going up the steps. Then she crowded in real close to me, and she whispered in my ear, I'll be listening to you, Junie Jones. I'll be hearing every word you sing. I smiled to just myself, because I had a surprise up my arm, that's why. Pretty soon, Mr. Toot raised his hands to start the song. I stood up straight and tall, then I took a big breath and I sang the words out loud real clear. Dashing through the snow in a one-horse open sleigh, o'er the fields we go, laughing all the way, ha ha ha. Bells on bobtail ring, making spirits bright. What fun it is to ride and sing a sleighing song tonight. My eyes glanced over at May. Her face looked disappointed almost. I smiled and then I took another big breath and I sang the chorus in her ear. Oh, jingle bells, Batman smells, P.S. so does May. I throw May right off the sleigh and then I drive away. Hey, yelled May. I laughed at that comment because hey is right in the song. Room 1 sang the chorus again, but I was laughing too hard to sing. It was the joke of my life, I tell you. Only too bad for me, because as soon as we got back in the room, May tattletaled her head off. It was not good. Mr. Scary called us up to his desk. He said he was very disappointed in both of us. Only unfortunately, there's not enough time left to send us to the office. I started to relax a teeny bit. Only just then the bad news came, because what do you know? Mr. Scary said there was exactly enough time for him to write a note to our parents. Dear First Grade Journal, Mother and Daddy were not good sports about the note. They said it was not funny to throw someone off a sleigh. That made me laugh all over again. I got sent to my room for a timeout. Grown-ups do not understand humor. From Junie B., first grader. I put down my pencil, and I glared my eyes at May's head. She did not look up from her journal. I know you're staring at me, Junie Jones, but I don't care that we got notes sent home. My mother was proud of me. In fact, she said that you deserved to get tattled on. I glared harder. Sometimes, if you glare hard enough, you can melt people's heads. I saw that on a commercial once. It was PG, I believe. I kept squinting and glaring, but May's head did not melt. Finally, I rested my eyes. I will try to melt her again at lunch. Just then, Mr. Scary stood up at his desk, and he said to put our journals away. Boys and girls, today is the day for our first visit to the holiday gift shop in the media center. Remember, he said, I sent a notice about it home to your parents last week. Today, we'll just be looking at the gifts, he said. Then on Friday, we'll go back with our money and buy the things we want. I waved my hand all around. Guess what, Mr. Scary? Guess what? My mother said I get to spend $1 whole on every person in my family, and that adds up to $5 entire. Lucille raised her hand. I can spend all the money in the whole world, she said. I'm rich. She stood up and fluffed herself. My family has more money than you can shake a stick at. Mr. Scary stared at her a real long time. Yes, well, fortunately, we don't need to be rich to shop at the gift shop, Lucille. Everything there is very affordable. Does everyone know what affordable means? I do. I called out. Affordable means cheap. My grandpa Frank Miller loves cheap. Sheldon jumped up. Hey, my grandpa loves cheap, too. My grandma calls him Cheap Old Ned. Mr. Scary did a chuckle. Before we go to the gift shop, we are going to draw names for our Secret Santa gift party. That way, you'll be able to look for your Secret Santa gifts while you're down there, too. We've been talking about this party all week. Can anyone tell me the most important rule about being a Secret Santa? Room 1 shouted the rule. You must keep the secret. Mr. Scary did a thumbs up. Yes, excellent. After you pick your name today, you must keep the name a secret. If you don't keep the secret, then you're not really a Secret Santa, are you? After that, he carried around a basket with everyone's names in it, and all of the children closed their eyes and they picked a name. Only too bad for me, because I am in the very last seat of the very last row. And so when Mr. Scary finally got to me, there was only one dumb name left in the whole entire basket. And here is the dumbest part of all. My teacher pretended I should be happy about it. Congratulations, Junie B. Jones. You have the honor of choosing the last name. Okay, see, one name left is actually not called choosing. One name left is called take it or leave it. I crossed my mad arms. I hate being in this seat, Mr. Scary. I hate it. I get all the bad stuff back here. Even on the very first day of school, I got the only crayons that were already used. Mr. Scary looked up at the ceiling. Yes, Junie B., I know that. We all know about that. You mention it every time we color. I looked at some of my friends. Did I mention that my red crayon wasn't even pointy? Because it wasn't, you know. My red crayon was already round, he said. Lenny, yes, you told us that already. I drummed my fingers. Did I mention that my greenie was broken in half? My greenie was just a teensy little stubby, said Jose. See, you told us about that too. Mr. Scary handed me the last name. Look, right now, someone in this room is counting on you to be their Secret Santa, Junie B. So you really need to read that name now. I did a sigh, and then I slid down in my chair, and I read the name. May. My head clunked down on my desk real hard. Mr. Scary read the name on my paper. I raised up and looked at him, and then I clunked back down again. Mr. Scary said to please knock off the clunking. He took my hand and stood me up. Boys and girls, Junie B needs a little help in reading the name. We'll be right back. Then quick as a wink, he hurried me into the hall, and he closed the door. I crossed my mad arms again. It's not fair, Mr. Scary. I hate that dumb name. I hate it. I hate it. My teacher snapped his fingers. You know I don't allow that word in my classroom, Junie B. We do not hate in room 1. I looked all around myself. But I'm not hating in room 1. I'm hating in the hall. Mr. Scary looked at me. We don't hate in the hall either. Raised my eyebrows. Really? No kidding? A lot of children will be surprised at that. Mr. Scary bent down next to me. Look, I know you and May aren't the best of friends, but this is a time of peace and goodwill, remember? And being a secret Santa to someone you don't like is the truest form of goodwill there is. I stared at him. How do teachers come up with this stuff? Really, Junie B., if you do something nice for May, you'll feel so proud inside, it will feel like a gift that you've given yourself. I kept staring. Maybe they pick it up at teacher school. After that, he ruffled my hair and he walked me back inside. Pretty soon, all of the children lined up at the door, and we followed Mr. Scary to the gift shop. The media center is down the hall and around the corner, and there was a gift shop lady in an elf hat. Welcome, Room 1. Welcome to our holiday gift shop. She smiled at us with big white teeth. I'm the president of the PTO. My name is Mrs. Hooks, but just for today, you can call me Elf Ellen. She looked all around. Some of you might know my son, Jeff. Jeff is a big third grader. Roger raised his hand. I know Jeff Hooks. Jeff Hooks stole my milk money last year. Elf Ellen stood there very frozen, and then she quick pointed across the room. Over there is Elf Wendy. Elf Wendy and I are here to help you with your gift selections. If you have any questions, please let us know. Roger waved his hand again. Did Jeff Hooks ever get punished for that? I reported him to the office, but I never got my money back. Elf Ellen squinted her eyes. I meant questions about the gift shop. After that, she passed out lists with all the gift items on them, and she told us about the prices. Children, as you can see, each of our 5 gift tables has a number on it. The number on the table matches the price of all the gifts on that particular table. For example, all of the gifts on table 1 sell for $1, and all of the gifts on table 2 sell for $2, and the gifts on table 3 sell for $3, and so on. Does everyone understand? Sheldon raised his hand. What about the gifts on table 4? How much do they go for? Elf Ellen sucked in her cheeks. Table 4 has a 4 on it, doesn't it? 4 means 4. They sell for $4. Sheldon nodded, very thoughtful. I see. And table 5? Elf Ellen looked at Mr. Scary. Is he pulling my leg? Mr. Scary grinned. Sheldon grinned too. Roger called out another question. Where's table 35 cents, he said, because that's how much Jeff Hooks still owes me. Is there a table for 35 cents? Elf Ellen glared her eyes at Roger, and she quick reached into her pocket and she gave him 35 cents. There, she said, are you satisfied? After that, she took off her elf hat and she put it on the counter and she said she's going on break. Roger smiled. Mr. Scary smiled too. Elf Wendy clapped her hands together. She said, it is time for us to browse around, except for please do not break the toys, and please do not eat the candy canes, and please do not blow our noses on the handkerchiefs. I skipped to table 2 real excited, because I already saw something that I love. Crayons! They've got crayons, I said, very thrilled, and I picked them up and looked inside. Look, the red has a sharp head, and greenie is not even as stubby. I breathed in their brand new smell. I would love to buy these things. Just then, my friend Herbert pulled me over to table 1. Tattoos, they've got tattoos, Junie B, and they look really, really real. I did a gasp at those things. There were pirate tattoos and dragon tattoos and dinosaur tattoos and kitty cat tattoos. Plus, also they had a nice variety of swamp animals. Whoa, that is all the tattoos a kid could ever dream of. I would love to buy those things. Then all of a sudden, my eyes glanced over at table 3 and my whole entire mouth fell open. It was glow-in-the-dark barrettes, I yelled. I've always wanted those things. Cool, said Herb. I know they are cool, Herbert, because if you lose your hair in the dark, you will always be able to find it. Just then I felt a tap on my shoulder and I spun around. It was May. You shouldn't be wanting to buy gifts for yourself, Junie Jones. We are here to buy gifts for others. I put my hands over my ears. Whoops, bad news, I can't hear you. May raised up her voice. It is nicer to give than to receive. Giving is the spirit of the holiday season. I am a giver. I give and give and I give and I give. And just then I thought I heard another voice. I turned to look. Mr. Scary was calling out some words to us, I think. Yeah, only I can't actually hear you because I've got my hands over my ears. Mr. Scary walked over to me and he took my hands away and his face did not look happy. You two aren't having another problem, are you? Shook my head very rapid. Nope, no siree, no problem. I was just being thrilled about all these gifts. That's all I was doing. May stood up real proud. And I was just telling her to be a giver like me. My mother says that some people are born to be givers and other people are born to be shellfish. I glanced my eyes at her and I stood there very puzzled. Then I looked up at Mr. Scary. I don't even care for shellfish, I said. He did a little smile and he said May and I could browse some more, but please keep our voices down. Only what do you know? As soon as he said that, we heard the loudest noise of the day. And it is called someone in the room, in room 1, did the giantest burp in the world. Our heads spun around to see, and we could not believe our eyeballs. Lucille, it was Lucille. And then all of us started laughing at once. Lucille burped. She burped. I didn't even know rich people burped, I said. Me neither, said Sheldon. I am pleasantly surprised. Lucille stamped her expensive foot. But I didn't burp. I didn't. She held up a round toy in her hand, and it sort of looked like a beanbag. It was this thing, she said. This thing burped, not me. Lucille gave it a squeeze, and another giant burp. Room 1 laughed until our sides hurt. Even May was laughing, and plus Mr. Scary was laughing too. A good burp can bring the whole world together, I tell you. Mr. Scary went to table 5 and he read us some information about that toy. It costs $5 and it's called Squeeze-a-burp, he said. All of us clapped at that silly name. A squeeze-a-burp, we hollered. Say it again. Squeeze it again, Mr. Scary. Mr. Scary smiled, but he shook his head no, and he put it back on the table. I think we've had enough burping for one day. Don't you? Room 1 did a groan. How can you have too much burping, said Jose. Burping is pure entertainment. Sheldon nodded. I agree. My grandpa can burp the Star-Spangled Banner. I've been trying to bring him in for show and tell, but he's booked solid. I looked at Sheldon very admiring. He comes from a talented family, I think. After that, all of the children hurried to table 5, and we gathered around the squeeze-a-burps. We read the writing on one of the bags, and it said, Squeeze-a-burp, the world's biggest belch in a bag. That gift is a genius, I said. I would love, love, love to buy that thing. Who wouldn't, said Lenny. See, said Jose, even my grandmother would love belch in a bag. Shirley slumped her shoulders. I just wish it didn't cost $5 whole. $5 is a lot of money for a burp. Yeah, said Sheldon, except for my grandpa, everyone in my family still burps for free. After that, all the children walked away to browse some more, only not me. I just kept standing there because the squeeze-a-burp was the funnest gift I ever heard of. And I had to have one of those things, I tell you. I just had to. That day, I ran home from my bus stop speedy fast, because Wednesday is Grandpa Miller's day to babysit my brother Ollie. And when I need money, Frank Miller is the man to talk to. I yelled for him at the top of my voice. Grandpa Miller, hey, Grandpa Miller, I need you. He called up from the basement. Junie B., is that you? I'm down here with Ollie. We're fixing the dryer. I hurried down there as fast as I could. Ollie was sitting in a laundry basket. He was hammering his shoe with a plastic hammer. I patted him on his head. Ollie has a screw loose, I think. After that, I raced to my grandpa and I climbed up on the dryer. I am glad you are here, Grandpa Miller. On account of Friday, I have to buy gifts at the school gift shop, and Mother is giving me $5. I grabbed him by the shirt collar. But I need more, Frank. I need $5 whole more, because 5 and 5 is 10, and $10 will buy me everything I want. My grandpa did a chuckle. You sweet girl, you don't need to spend a lot of money on gifts for Grandma and me. $1 a piece is just fine. And I'm sure your mother and Daddy and Ollie feel the same way. He put me down from the dryer. It's not how much a gift costs that makes it special, Junie B. It's the thought that counts. I looked and looked at that man. I was not making myself clear, apparently. Okay, so here's the deal, I said. Grandpas have to give their grandgirls however much money we want. It's the rules. Grandpa Miller raised his eyebrows. Oh, is it? After that, he chuckled some more, and he went behind the dryer again, and I scratched my head. This attitude was throwing me for a loop. I climbed back up on the dryer, and I tapped on his head. How come you're not getting this, Grandpa? It's so simple. I need $5, and you have $5. Boom, do the math. Grandpa Miller looked up at me. Boom, do the math, he repeated. Is that what you just said? Then all of a sudden he did a loud hoot of laughing. Boom, do the math. That's priceless. I crossed my arms very annoyed, because boom, do the math is not a laughing matter. Got down from the dryer very grouchy. Oh, just never mind the whole thing, I grumped. Then I started to go up the stairs, but Grandpa called me back. Whoa, 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 don't go away mad. I turned around. And wait till you hear this. That man was taking money out of his wallet. You're going to do all right in life, little girl, he said, real nice. And then he gave me $5 whole. Thank you, Grandpa, thank you, I said. And then I gave him my biggest hug ever. And I ran upstairs to tell Philip Johnny Bob. Philip Johnny Bob is my bestest stuffed elephant. I have known him ever since he got manufactured. I picked him up and threw him in the air. The squeeze-a-burp, Philip. I'm going to get the squeeze-a-burp. Philip looked down at me from the air. He said to please stop throwing him. I caught him all safe and sound, and then I sat him on my pillow, and I told him all about the gift shop, plus I showed him the list of gift items. The gift shop is where you go to buy things for others, mostly. And so I'm only buying one little toy for myself, and that's all. Because one little toy is not even being a shellfish. Right, Phil? Right? Right, said Philip. Plus a good burp is something the whole family can enjoy. Exactly. That's what I think. Plus everyone will still get their own entire gift that costs $1. And so what would be nicer than that? You are a giver, said Philip. And I patted him for that nice comment. Then both of us looked at my list of gifts again, and we read all the stuff that only costs $1. Philip tapped on his trunk. It's hard to choose, isn't it? There are some very lovely gift items. And then all of a sudden, Philip's eyes popped right out of his head. Tattoos, he said? They have tattoos? Yes, Philip, they have 5 different kinds of tattoos, and all of them look really, really real. Oh, he said, you can't go wrong with tattoos. I clapped very happy. I agree. And so it's all settled, Philip. I will buy everyone their own tattoo, and that will use up my whole $10. It works out perfect. Me and Philip Johnny Bob did a high five, and then we flopped back on the pillow, and we smiled and smiled. Friday is going to be fun, because in the morning I will buy presents, and in the afternoon, room 1 will have a secret Santa party. Philip jumped in the air. Gifts and a secret Santa party? What can be better than that? We flopped back on my pillow again, and all of a sudden I did a little frown, because I just remembered something important. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, said Philip. I forgot about the secret Santa gift, Philip. I have to buy a secret Santa gift for dumb old May. Philip sighed. Yeah, so? So all of my $10 is already used up, and so where will I get the money for May? Philip looked strangely at me. From Mother and Daddy, of course. Money for school presents is their job, Junie B., not yours. Whew, I felt relief in me. Whew, yes, you're right, Phil. It is their job. Plus, a gift for May won't even cost much, hardly. Right, said Philip. Any dumb old gift will do for May. I shook my finger at him. Hey, 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 that is not a good attitude, mister. Then both of us started laughing, and we couldn't even stop. Dear first grade journal, I cannot believe the situation. Mother said no more money. They said Grandpa Miller already gave me $5 whole. And he was not supposed to tell them, and so great, now I have stress in my head. I need an extra buck, I tell you. I really, really need an extra buck. Your friend, Junie B. I closed my journal and I looked all around. My friend Herbert was not writing in his journal. I tapped on his head. Psst, Herbert, I need a buck. I really, really need a buck. I know, Junie B. You told me that on the bus, remember, but I really don't have a buck. Really, really, I don't. He pulled out his pockets to show me, and then he turned back around. I tapped on his head again. Yeah, only I don't need it now, Herbert. I need it tomorrow. And so just bring me $1 tomorrow, and I will be your bestest friend. Herb turned around. You already are my bestest friend. Plus, I already told you. My mother will only give me the exact amount I need for my gifts. She says every time she gives me extra money, I lose it. Can I borrow a pencil? I lost mine. I gave him a pencil, and then I reached across the aisle and I tapped on Lenny. Hey, Lenny, I need an extra buck tomorrow. Can you bring me an extra buck, huh, Lenny, please? Lenny shook his head. Sorry, Junie B., but my parents are tightwads. I've never had an extra buck in my life. Jose turned around. My parents are tightwads, too. They are muy tecano. That means tightwads in Spanish. Just then, Snoopy-head May reached across the row, and she poked me with her pencil. Ask me, Junie Jones, ask me. My parents aren't tightwads. I always have extra money. She reached into her backpack. I have $2 whole with me right now. Want to see? She took out a shiny plastic wallet, and wowie, wow, wow, there were $2 whole folded up in there. See, said May, I told you I have money. My parents say I should always have money in case of an emergency. I sat up very perky. Wow, what a coincidence, because this is emergency. And if you will just give me one of those dollars, that will take care of my whole entire problem. I held out my hand. But May just frowned her eyebrows. Don't be silly. This is for my emergencies, not yours, Junie Jones. She started to put her wallet back. I talked my fastest. But you're a giver, May. Remember that? You are a giver, and I am a shellfish. May shrugged. Yeah, so? So if you give me $1, I will take $1, and that will make sense for both of us. May shook her head. No, I can't. My father says that friends should never borrow money from each other. I clapped my hands, very thrilled. Then that's perfect, I said, because you and I aren't friends. I don't even like you, May. Plus, listen to this. I'm not even borrowing the money. You're just giving it to me, and I'm not paying it back. May made a mad face at me, and then she quick put her wallet away. I slumped way down in my seat, and I tapped on my fingers. I don't get it, I said. That was the best arguing I ever thought of. What went wrong there? Herb turned around. I think it may have been the part where you said, I don't even like you, May. Plus, I'm not paying you back part was probably not the way to go either, nodded Lenny. May leaned her head across the aisle. Or else maybe you were never, ever getting the money in the first place. Did you ever think of that, Junie Jones? I glared my eyes at her. You're going to be sorry, I thought in my head. You're going to be really, really sorry. Just then Mr. Scary stood up at his desk and he said to put our journals away. He went to the closet and took out some white paper sacks. Boys and girls, these white sacks are going to hold our secret Santa gifts. Today, each one of you will decorate your own sack, and tomorrow, your secret Santa will put your gift inside. He passed them out. Please print your name clearly on your sack. Then at the end of the day, I'll arrange them on the back table. And tomorrow, when we come back from the gift shop, your Secret Santa will go back there and deliver the gift right to your sack. Sound like fun? Room one clapped real happy. Fun, we said. Really, really fun, said May. And she jumped up from her chair. Thinking about Secret Santa Day puts me in a happy mood. Even Junie Jones can't ruin my Secret Santa tomorrow. And after that, she skipped around her desk and she sat right back down. Then I glared at her some more. Oh, yes, I can, May. I can ruin your day, but good. I crossed my mad arms. I would think of a way, no matter what. I stayed mad at May for the whole rest of the day because that meanie girl didn't even deserve a Secret Santa gift, I tell you. She didn't deserve any dumb gift at all. I rode the boats home very grumpy. If I was the real Santa Claus, I would give May coal in her stocking. That's what she really, really deserves. She deserves coal. And just then I sat there very still, and I did not move my muscles. My brain rewinded itself. Coal. She deserves coal, I thought again, and chill bumps came on my arms. I sat up straighter. I am a genius, I think. I zoomed home from my bus stop as fast as a rocket, and then I ran to my front door, and I ran out the back door, and I stopped at Daddy's barbecue grill. The barbecue grill is where Daddy cooks hamburgers and hot dogs, and there is a big bag of coal there. I reached in my hand, and I pulled out a lump. Then I quick rushed to my room, and I showed the coal to Philip, Johnny, Bob. Coal, coal, I got coal, Phil, see it? See the coal? Coal is what the real Santa Claus gives mean children, and so that is exactly what I will give May. Phil stared at it, very curious. Yeah, only here's the problem. That is not actually coal, he said. That is called a charcoal briquette. I did an annoyed breath. Yes, Philip, I know it is a charcoal briquette, but I saw a picture of coal before, and it looks exactly like this, kind of, and so May will not even know the difference. Phil looked at the coal some more. Oh, I get it. The coal is to teach her a lesson, right? Right, Phil. That's how come Santa thought of coal in the first place, to teach bad children lessons. Phil grinned. Plus, after May learns her lesson, she can grill herself a hot dog. I laughed out loud at that funny guy. He is a joke a minute, I tell you. I put the coal in a little plastic baggie and I dropped it in my backpack. Ha! The perfect Secret Santa gift for Meanie May, and it didn't even cost me a single cent. I wiped the coal dirt off my hands, and that is that. So there. The next morning, Mother gave me a $5 bill for the gift shop. I looked at it in my hand. Big whoop, I said. I would not actually recommend saying that comment. I got marched to my room for a timeout. While I was there, I unzipped my backpack, and I checked on my coal. It was still safe and sound in its plastic baggie. After that, I got the $5 Grandpa Miller gave me, and I added it to Mother's money, and I hid all of my dollars in the bottom of my shoe. Hiding money in your shoe is a good way to keep it safe from pickpocket people. I saw that on the Travel Channel. But I must have done something wrong, I think, on account of my dollars got very wadded up at the end of my sock, and they pressed against my little piggy toe. That is how come when I got to room 1, I took off my shoe and I rubbed my toe all better. May looked over at me, and she made a face and held her nose. That is disgusting, Junie Jones. People should not play with their own stinky feet. I raised my eyebrows, very curious. Then whose stinky feet shall we play with? May put her hands over her ears. I am not going to listen to you today. Today is Secret Santa Day, and I am not going to let you ruin my happy mood. After that, she turned back around and she tapped on Lenny's head. Happy Secret Santa Day, Lenny. I can't wait for the party. Can you? Lenny started to answer, but May interrupted. I dressed all in green and red today. See my socks? One is red and one is green. Lenny stared at her feet. When my grandfather does that, we make him go back and change, he said. May did a giggle. But I did it on purpose, Lenny, See the ribbons in my braids? One is red and one is green, just like my socks. And see, my sweater is green and my dress is red. She stood up and turned around. This is how everyone should dress on Secret Santa Day. Every time I think about our party, it makes my skin prickle. Want to see? And she closed her eyes for a second, and then she did a little shiver. Woo! I felt it. I felt my skin prickle again. Lenny stared at her, and I stared at her too, because I never actually saw her happy before. You're acting like a nut, I said. How come you're acting like a nut? May started to make a mad face, and then very quick she started smiling again. Ha! See that, Junie Jones? See how fast I smiled? Even if you call me names, you still cannot ruin my happy mood today. I made the cuckoo sign at her, but May kept right on smiling. Pretty soon the bell rang to start school. Mr. Scary took attendance, and also we did opening ceremonies. Then, hooray, hooray, he said it is time for room 1 to go to the gift shop. I clapped real loud at that happy news, because pretty soon I would have my very own squeeze-a-burp, and that is a dream come true. I sprang out of my chair and I ran to the door. Yay, yay, I'm the first in line, I'm the first in line. Then I jumped up and down and I twirled all around, and plus also I skipped to and fro. Mr. Scary said, please sit down. But my feet would not stop bouncing, and that's how come Mr. Scary gave up on me, and he held my hand, and both of us led room 1 to the gift shop. I zoomed in the door as fast as I could, and then I ran straight to table 5, and wait till you hear this. There was only one squeeze-a-burp left. I did a gasp at that situation. Then I quick grabbed it, and I hid it in my sweater, and I zoomed to the gift shop lady speedy fast. Quick, hurry, put it in a bag. I don't want people to see me buying this, or they might call me a shellfish. The lady looked at me kind of odd, and then I handed her my money, and she put the burp in a bag, and no one even saw. I hid the bag in my sweater pocket, and then I walked real calm to table 1, and I picked out 5 sets of tattoos. And guess what? Everyone in my family got their own special kind, because Grandpa Miller got dinosaurs, and Mother got dragons, and Daddy got pirates, and Ollie got kitty cats, and my Grandma Helen Miller got the nice variety pack of swamp animals. She will love these things, I said. There's a swamp animal to match every occasion. After that, I skipped to the gift lady, and I gave her the rest of my money. She put them in my same bag, and I smiled when I looked in there. These are the bestest gifts I ever bought, I told her. The lady nodded. Yes, she said, tattoos and a belch. Your family will be delighted. I did a happy giggle. Then I ran to the door of the gift shop, and I lined up to go back to room 1. I'm all done, people. I'm all done shopping. May walked by me. This isn't a race, Junie Jones. I made a face at her, and then I sat down on the floor, and I waited and waited and waited. Room 1 is the slowest shoppers I ever saw. Then finally, Mr. Scary said it's time to go back to our room, and so everyone lined up behind me, and I led them back. All of us were buzzing very much, because after lunch would come the party, of course, and the party meant, we get our Secret Santa gifts. Mr. Scary hurried back to room 9. Boys and girls, all of the paper sacks you decorated yesterday are lined up here on the back table. When I call your name, you will walk back there, and I'll help you find the right bag, okay? And then you'll secretly drop your Secret Santa gift inside and walk back to your desk. We don't have much time, so we've got to be orderly. The rest of you will stay busy writing or drawing in your journals. And remember, no peeking. He called Lucille's name first, and she skipped to the front of the room and did a twirl. This is just in case anyone missed seeing my expensive party dress today, she said. And then she skipped to the back of the room with her gift shop bag. I looked over at May. She was getting out her journal, not paying attention to me. Very sneaky, I reached my hand in my backpack, and I pulled out the baggie with the coal inside. Then I bent over very secret, and I dropped the coal in my gift shop bag. The plastic made a crinkle sound. May turned her head to see, and I smiled. She was too late. The coal was ready to go. Dear first grade journal, I keep thinking about May's present. I wonder what will happen when she sees the coal. I wonder what her face will look like. I wonder if she will learn a lesson. I wonder if Santa will be proud of me. That is all the things I'm wondering. Your friend, Junie B., first grader. Just then I felt a poke. It was May. Are you getting excited, Junie Jones? I'm getting excited. Lenny heard her. Me too, I'm getting excited too. Herb and Jose both nodded their heads. Me too, they said together. May squirmed and bounced in her seat. She was acting like a regular kid. Having a secret Santa makes you feel like you have a best friend, she said. Right, Lenny, huh? It makes you feel like you have a best friend, doesn't it? Lenny looked funny at her. But I do have a best friend, May. My best friend is Jose. Jose smiled. Back at you, Len. Herb pointed at me and said, my best friend is Junie B. I poked him very fun. And my best friend is Y-O-U, Herbert. Just then, May stopped bouncing and squirming, and her face lost all the happy. Oh, she said, right. Her shoulders slumped a little bit. Well, anyway, that's what it makes me feel like, she said. Having a secret Santa makes me feel like I have a best friend, too. After that, all of us sat there very still. The mood did not feel happy anymore. Very slow, Lenny and Jose turned back around in their chairs. Me and Herb turned around, too, and we didn't talk again. We just sat there and waited for Mr. Scary to call our names. Finally, he called Jose and then Lenny, and May started to get excited again. I heard her whisper, it's almost my turn, it's almost my turn, it's almost my turn. And just then Lenny came back from the gift table and May sprang right up. Me, it's time for me. Then she grabbed her gift bag and she ran right back to Mr. Scary. Pretty soon it would be my turn too. I picked up my gift shop bag and I peeked in at the coal. My stomach felt a little bit sickish at the sight of it. I wonder if Santa's stomach feels sickish before he gives children coal. May skipped back to her chair and she started singing Frosty the Snowman. And I closed my ears and tried not to hear her being happy. Finally, Mr. Scary called my name, Junie B. My heart pounded real hard and I picked up my gift bag and walked back to the table. Mr. Scary winked at me. Do you need any help? I shook my head real fast. Nope, no help, no thank you, no help, Mr. Scary. I can do this all by myself. My hands felt sweatish and clammish. I wiped them on my skirt. Then I waited very patient for my teacher to walk away. After he was gone, I picked up May's gift sack and I held it in my hand. It was the beautifulest sack on the table. It was covered with sparkly gold stars and sparkly red glitter, plus also there were beautiful green bows all over the sides. I did a gulp. I wondered how it would look with the black coal inside. I wonder if May would be sad when she saw it. I did another gulp. I wondered if she would stop singing Frosty. Just then I heard my name again. Junie B., are you sure you don't need help back there? Then, oh no, oh no. And before I could even answer, I heard his feet. He was coming back to help me. I felt pressure in my head. There was no time left, and so boom, I did it. I grabbed May's present out of my gift bag and I dropped it right in her sack. And then I hurried back to my desk speedy fast and I plopped down in my seat. I took some deep breaths. It was over. And that was that. The end. Room 1 went to lunch. I did not eat my sandwich. Also, I did not eat my carrot sticks because how can I even swallow stuff when my stomach still feels sickish? I kept thinking and thinking about what I did, only it didn't even matter anymore because now it was too late. After we got back from lunch, Mr. Scary put on a Santa hat and he passed out cake and cookies and punch. Plus also he gave everyone a candy cane. And after that he went back to our gift sacks and he folded their tops shut. Okay, everyone, this is the moment we've all been waiting for. Ready for me to deliver the secret Santa gifts? Ready, shouted room 9. Mr. Scary smiled, and when I give you your gift sack, please keep it on your desk. And then when everyone has their sack, we will open them all together. May jumped up and clapped. That is a deal, mister, she said. And then she sat back down and she sang Frosty some more. All of room 1 started singing with her, except not me. because I still did not feel cheery about what I did, and there was nothing I could even do about it. Pretty soon, Mr. Scary handed May her sack. She stood up and skipped around her desk again, and she was still belting out Frosty. I drummed my fingers on my desk. Okay, now her joy is actually getting on my nerves, I said, just to myself. And finally, Mr. Scary gave me my gift sack, too. Thank you, I said, only I didn't actually feel happy, because May's gift kept staying on my mind. As soon as all the sacks were passed out, Mr. Scary walked to the front of the room, and he beamed real big. Okay, everyone, when I count to 3, we'll open our gifts. Ready? Ready, we shouted. And Mr. Scary started to count. 1, 2, 3, and then whoosh. All of the children pulled out their gifts at once, except not me again, and not May. Instead, she just stared into her sack, and she sat there real frozen, and her face had shock on it. Lenny turned around to see what she got, but May didn't move. What'd you get, May? What's wrong, huh? What's wrong? May didn't answer. Then Jose turned around too, and so did Herb and Sheldon and Shirley. What's wrong with May? Is something wrong with May? May kept staying frozen. Finally, Mr. Scary came back to her desk, and he bent down next to her. May, is there a problem? He asked real quiet. May did a big swallow. Her eyes had a little bit of tears in them, I think. Then very slow, she handed him the gift sack, and he looked inside. His mouth dropped open at that sight. Oh my. And he gave it back. May looked up at him. I can't believe anybody would do this, she said real soft. Do what, May? Asked Sheldon. May breathed real deep, and then she reached into her bag, and she pulled out her gift. And everyone gasped real loud. They could not believe their eyeballs, I tell you. They waited to get their breath back, and then everybody started shouting all at once. A squeeze-a-burp! Somebody got May the squeeze-a-burp! That thing cost a fortune, called Shirley. Squeeze it, yelled Sheldon. Yes, squeeze it, yelled the children. And May started to grin. Then she stood up kind of slow, and she gave that thing a squeeze. And it burped beautifully. Room 1 laughed their heads off. Do it again, do it again. And so May burped again. And room 1 laughed. And they kept going on and on like that. And finally May sat down for a second, and she fanned herself with her hand. I think I'm being popular, she said, very stunned. Then she quick stood up again, and she skipped around the room, and she kept on squeezing her burp. I felt happy, sort of. Also, it felt hard, because I really, really wanted that toy. That's why I wanted it real bad, only it didn't even belong to me now, and it never, never would. My gift sack was still sitting on my desk. I put it on my lap and looked inside. Crayons, I said. My Secret Santa bought me new crayons. Who even knew I needed those things? And all of room 1 turned around at once. Everyone, they said. I opened the box and breathed their new crayon smell. Then I lined them up on my desk, and I smiled real happy, because Greenie was not a stubby, and my Red's head was perfectly pointy. I smiled even bigger, and then I drank some punch and ate a cookie. My stomach felt better now. Pretty soon, May skipped back to her desk, and she fanned herself again. Whew, being popular really gets you tired, right, Junie Jones, right? I looked back and nodded. Right, I said. After that, May sat down, and both of us ate our cake, and we licked our candy canes, and it was very peaceful of us. We were having goodwill, I believe. After May finished, she wiped her mouth off with her napkin. Well, I'd better get back to my skipping now. I have a lot more burping to do before the bell rings, and she jumped up from her chair. But instead of skipping away, she just stood there with the squeeze-a-burp, and she smiled at me. Then all of a sudden, she reached across the aisle, and she put it on my desk. Want to try it, Junie Jones? Want to do a burp? I raised my eyebrows at that girl. Really, May? No kidding? You would really, really let me do that? And then before she could change her mind, I quick picked it up, and I squeezed that thing as loud as I could. And wowie, wow, wow, it was the biggest burp of the day. May clapped and clapped. Ha! That was a good one, Junie B. You did good. The words floated inside my head. I smiled. I did good. After that, May picked up her toy and she started to skip away. And then, whoa, hold the phone. It hit me like a brick. I jumped up and I grabbed May's arm. Wait a second, May. Did you just say my B? Because I really, really thought you just said my B just now. I'm almost positive you did, in fact. May tapped on her chin. Really? I said your B? That's funny. And then she did a little smile and she skipped away. I sat there a second, and then my whole face got happy. Only I don't even know why, because I still really wanted that squeeze-a-burp, I tell you. And so, how come I felt so good inside? Maybe when I got home from school, Philip, Johnny, Bob would help me figure it out. But for right now, there was only one thing I was that I was really, really hoping for. I picked up my new black crayon and I opened my journal. Dear Santa, I really hope that you were watching me just now. That's all I hope. Love, Junie B., a giver. P.S. You don't happen to have an extra squeeze-a-burp up there, do you? Peace and goodwill. Amen. So, it all came out okay, which is terrific. Everybody have happy holidays for the next couple of weeks. Junie B. is not going to be here Christmas Eve because she already has her Christmas here and I have to stay home and mind my own business. So, happy holidays to everyone. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever you believe. So, and we'll see you later. Thank you.